I'm an owl, apparently. And you humans think we're wise. And yes, we are fairly wise in the scheme of things. Although another owl-related thing you humans do that disturbed me was apparently some of your shady bigwig types actually perform mock human sacrifices in front of a huge owl deity at the Secret of Bohemian Grove meeting. It wasn't even the owl from Labyrinth. Come on, guys. Just look at him go. He even turns into David Bowie. Recognise.
Who are you?
I've brought you a gift.
So apparently, my character was based on an owl sketch by the renowned artist Mark Churchill. He's pretty good. I think this sums things up pretty well from an owl's perspective. So you human-type creatures, you live quite an odd existence from what I can see. Sat here from my branch at least. Okay, so getting down to business, let's take your money system. Hot topic right now. But from the perspective of a woodland creature, it just looks like you have some kind of collective mental illness. Perhaps a bit strong, but suffice to say, it's looking weirder by the day.
The smell of the rain-washed florid, the lure of the lira, the glitter and the glory of the guinea, the romance of the ruble, the feel of the franc, the heel of the Deutschmark, the cold antiseptic sting of the Swiss franc, and the sunburned splendour of the Australian dollar.
So from what I can make out, you have these things that denote value from things. Bits of paper, coins.
Some of it in nice piles, others in lovely clanky bits of loose change.
I get it, it's convenient. Can't always walk around everywhere with a bag of turnips or live chickens to swap. So what would be a good idea is to have your money system based against a commodity of value. Let's say something like one regurgitated vole. One regurgitated vole is equal to £1. So the more regurgitated voles your country has, the more pounds there are in circulation. This would seem to make sense, at least for an advocate of regurgitated voles such as myself. Now, from what I read here on the Woodland internet, you used to base it against gold. It's some funny shiny stuff. Not sure what it's for, but it looks nice. And this was called the gold standard. Okay, but it would seem this was getting in the way of the financial system's fun, so they did away with it, and replaced it with fiat money. Now, a fiat currency, it's not what you think. It's not where money is based against the amount of cheap Italian cars a country has. That would be almost too logical. It's now not based against anything anymore, and to top it off, there were some sneaky new money powers brought in that definitely weren't devised in a reality where the concept of fairness exists.
Our money's fine now, all that we need is more.
With your supposed more advanced brains and consciousness, I actually expected better from you, but you do know how to disappoint in a big way, you advanced penis, you. Did I just say penis? I meant species. So how does this fiat money get created? Dress it up in lots of fancy words, but essentially it's conceived from a lovely, cosy government central bank relationship. A cartel, some might say. So the government needs money, and they set up this kind of swap shop scenario, set in a barn of course, and they approach the central bank and they ask for more money. And the central bank agrees in return for government bonds. Essentially, they're just swapping bits of paper, certificates of bonds against £5 notes, 50p pieces, numbers on a computer. The bonds are essentially a debt to the central banks, so the money is essentially created from debt. Starting to get a bad feeling about this yet? I am, but that just might be my shrew repeating again. Now the freshly digitally magicked monies are then deposited into a commercial bank. It thus becomes part of that bank's reserve. And here's the interesting bit. For every, say, 1,000 vols or pounds in the bank's reserve, that bank can lend out 900 vols or pounds against that amount using the fractional reserve banking system. Now this only requires them to keep 10% of the money as a reserve. The really cheeky bit is, it doesn't take it physically from the deposit, it actually magics a new £900, or vols, or shrews, or mice, maybe a mole. I had to go at a fox once. Anyway, it magics £900, like a monetary Paul Daniels, out of the air, thus adding more money to the monetary system. And this can then be repeated in the next bank it's deposited in, and so on. And of course, all this time, interest is being charged on the loans, adding yet more money, and so on, and so on. Another glorious power granted to the banks that they don't really like you knowing. Just like that when my talons fail and my beak doesn't work, I actually carry a gun. How do I pull the trigger? I don't really know. Why has this interesting fact never been mentioned on the BBC, one could wonder? I should have a word with Chris Packham's owl, though he's never been the same after he flew into that window. Poor guy. Back to it, right. And so it continues, and the money supply gets ever bigger, and on average, 9 times the amount of the original deposit will be created in new money. And thus, with the creation of this new money, the value of the existing money goes down. And that's how we get this lovely thing called inflation, which is essentially a hidden tax. And our inflation rate is set by the Bank of England, who aren't answerable to the government, according to Mervyn King.
Have you responded in any way to that political pressure?
Certainly not. I mean, the Bank of England is independent. Not one of our 9-person members of the committee would dream of staying on that committee for a day longer if people thought they were trying to put pressure on us. And I can say this, that neither this government nor the previous one has ever, since 1997, tried to influence a decision on interest rates or asset purchases by the Monetary Policy Committee. We may have made mistakes, but they have been our own mistakes. We have never been put under pressure, and we would never respond to it.
This could be likened to the Federal Reserve in America, who are again independent of the government. Isn't that right, Alan Greenspan?
Well, first of all, the Federal Reserve is an independent agency, and that means basically that there is no other agency of government which can overrule actions that we take.
Are you humans starting to see a pattern form here? This sort of system could have only been devised by the most conniving of woodland creatures, the shifty weasel. They must be able to shapeshift into banker form these days. This could explain our lot. Get it? Our lot? No? Ugh, wasted on you. And now your lot are saying that there's a global economic crisis. And what are they going to do to solve it? I suppose they're going to magic more money out of thin air. Even a daddy longlegs who spends most of his time flying into light bulbs has the common sense to know you can't just solve the money crisis by adding more money to the system. It will just devalue the currency and increase inflation more and more and more and more. Adding more money to the system is like throwing petrol on the fire and wondering why it's not going out. It's going to create depression, and you have to ask yourself, is this purposeful? Who knows? But the weasels are capable of anything. Their moral gene has been lacking for a while. Bloody, shifty, cucumber-shaped weasels. Okay, moving on. Let's sum up with some interesting facts. Moles are now based on debt, not vol. Money is now based on debt, not gold. There is not enough money in existence to pay off the debt and its interest, so perpetual debt is guaranteed for all. Hooray! So at the moment, they say there are all these countries in financial trouble, national debts and all that stuff. But do any of you ever stop and ask, who do we owe this invisible money to? The answer is, well, anyone who has bought these government bonds. Central banks, commercial banks, overseas investors, weasels. You know the sort, the usual suspects. And of course now this debt is then held over the public. But did you have anything to do with running it up? The answer is no. You never had any direct hand in running the debt up, and yet you've been asked to accept a worse financial situation so that they can pay it off. Now, to better illustrate this scenario, let me employ the help of this slightly suspicious-looking rabbit.
Hello.
And we're going to look at how this is going to work on a personal level. Okay. I've got this debt run up, and I think I'm going to pass it on to you to pay off.
Did I have anything to do with this debt?
Well, not really, but I've decided to place more taxes on you, cut your wages, charge you more for goods and services, and take away all your vols. So, all of this is so you can help me pay it off. Is that alright?
I would say no.
Well, That's too bad you feel that way, but I'm going to do it anyway. And as I make the laws, if you don't want to pay these new charges, I'll either fine you even more money, or possibly put you in jail, or take away your voles, or carrots. So, really, your options are quite limited.
Now, call me old-fashioned, but that doesn't seem quite fair.
No, it doesn't really, does it? But what are you going to do? I make the laws, and I've got the police force, and the army, and I know Kung Fu. So tell me, Mr. Rabbit, what are you going to do? Huh? Scene. So now that we've finished treading the boards, let's get back to it. So they come in with public sector cuts, tax increases, cries of, "Oh, we've got no money, we all have to suffer, tighten the belt, take away the voles," and all that stuff. But as soon as they need to carpet bomb Libya or raid a chicken coop, all of a sudden there's plenty of money. Most suspicious. It's those weasels again. To cut a long story short, they're mugging you off. The system is not designed in a fair way, and everyone's beginning to realise that. It's not that systems are inherently bad, but obviously if there's a weasel in the mix, they're going to manipulate it massively to their advantage. Bloody weasels. The financial system is not really set up as a level playing field. It would seem you have no say in what goes on. Or do you? This would never be accepted in the Woodland environment, would it, Rabbit?
Of course not, we sorted this shit out in Watership Down.
Because I think this species has squandered great gifts, namely and especially the gift of this brain/mind, which is able to distinguish between subject and object as a starter, and able to do a lot of abstract things that should have led us better places. We should certainly have done better than to embrace superstitious religious belief that rules us and leads us, and the pursuit of goods and profit and territory and power. That's what we turned into.
So what is the answer? In short, we need a fairer system. But are they going to give it to us? They seem to be resistant so far.
Some people have been on the ride for a long time, and they begin to question, is this real, or is this just a ride? And other people have remembered, and they come back to us and they say, hey, don't worry, don't be afraid, ever, because this is just a ride. And we kill those people. Shut him up. We have a lot invested in this ride. Shut him up. Look at my furrows of worry. Look at my big bank account and my family. Has to be real.
Our logic would advocate you should just keep pointing it out, educating people to the absurdities and the unfairness of what's going on at the moment, and eventually the tide of public opinion and consciousness will be just too negative against this kind of amoral system, and it just won't be able to exist anymore. It will eventually crumble away, like the bark from an old tree. I know this is all a bit owl-dealist, but what can I say? Us owls are just hippies, really. I blame all the strange mushrooms I ate as a chick for a lot of it. But nothing wrong with a bit of owl-dealism, I say. He who dares to dream and all of that sort of thing.
It's only a choice. No effort, no work, no job, no savings of money. A choice, right now, between fear and love.
Right, well, that's the financial system analysed in a nutshell. Good luck with changing things. Bow to the audience, bow to the stage, and I'm out.